My name is Rob Long from 105.7 The Fan and Masson, and I get the honor to MC this event. This is my third one today, but this one is, don't tell anybody I told you this is my favorite. I'm going to introduce to you some Oriole legends. The first legend that I'm going to introduce is a man who just gave me a word of encouragement that I can't repeat. The ace, Jim Palmer. All right, our second legend. Man, he scooped a lot of short hops at first base. You know him for his barbecue now, but no introduction needed. Boog Powell. Oriole fans are known for their chants. And when I was a kid at Memorial Stadium, Eddie Murray. Am I the only one with goosebumps right now? Don't tell anybody I told you that, okay? I have a hard time believing this. I was in the back talking to this next legend, and he says he has not been here for this event in 30 years. 30 years. You know who he is. On the hot corner, Mr. Brooks Robinson. You know, people ask, I heard someone earlier ask, what is the Oriole way? This is the Oriole way.
I couldn't believe this crowd. I heard there was like over 8,000 here. That's unbelievable. Thanks for coming out.
Boog, young Oriole fans know you for your barbecue, but you were a heck of a first baseman, man, and one of the best power hitters of the game during your time.
Well, thank you very much. I feel like I've met every single one of you folks out here at my barbecue one day or another. If you've been there, raise your hand. Yeah, thank you very much. Anyway, well, we look forward to doing it again this year, and it always does me good, and it does, after you've been off for a whole year, your ego suffers a little bit, you know, and you guys just built it up again. Thank you very much, and I know these guys feel the same way.
We all tried to copy his batting stance, but we couldn't do it. Especially like him, Eddie Murray.
Thank you. Now, that was a tough thing to do after I saw it for the first time. So got to see myself swing. It was ugly. That was an ugly stance.
I was going to say, my last year, it was Eddie's first year. We spent 1977 together, and I taught him well, I'll tell you that.
The ace. People think you have a number one starter. They don't know what a number one starter is. Jim Palmer. What's going on, Jim?
Well, you know, we all know that, well, of course, these guys are well aware. When I got to the Orioles, I was 19, and back then they actually had roommates because, you got along. So they gave me Robin Roberts, who was 38. He was twice my age, but he was on his way to Cooperstown, one of the great right-handed pitchers. And I used to, about 1 o'clock in the morning, we'd watch the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and Robin would look across in the other bed. He goes, I got to get some rest, kid. I'm 38 years old. You can't keep asking me these questions. But the thing is, Robin answered them. And of course, Boog played with him. We all know what a gentleman he was and one of the great right-handed pitchers. But what's so interesting to me is that we just had the Hall of Fame induction, or the guys that got in this year, and I say this every time: I would not be in the Hall of Fame if I didn't have a chance to play with these three guys. And Boog, he didn't get in the Hall of Fame, but he ended up the most valuable player in '70, second in '69. And then Eddie, I thought I was a judge of baseball, but I saw Eddie Murray take batting practice in Miami in 1977, and I said, this kid has no chance. Because, and Eddie prided himself in this, he probably was the worst. Well, it worked for you because you used a big, heavy bat, and you kind of knew where the barrel was, but I'm going, boy, what a waste of time shagging for this guy, because we used to have this little field, they had the half field, and we used to have guys on guard because Eddie would be in doing this because we didn't want any of our pitchers to get hurt from those weak fly balls he hit down the left field line. But then the game started, and that's when all of a sudden I go, they talk about, I know you guys were just listening to analytics. Analytics tell you, they can give you kind of a guide into it, but once the game started and you were a scout, you said, well, wait a minute, this kid can really play. And 504 home runs later and over 3,000 hits, we got that message loud and clear.
Yeah, we're talking about practice. Practice.
We were hitting Kansas City one day. We come out early, we're out there about 2 o'clock, and we're running around, we get shorts on. And Eddie's taking batting practice. We all walked off the field. We waited for the next guy because nothing was happening, And then the game started. Kind of a recurrent theme there.
We want to get to some questions. We know some of our Oriole fans out here want to talk to the Oriole Hall of Famers. Let's start off here on my left over here.
Is for Brooks. First, I want to say that my dad named my middle name after you, which is awesome. Brooks. My middle name is Brooke. It's awesome. I'm so excited I'm talking to you. I wanted to know if you have a favorite memory that you can pinpoint.
Well, my favorite memory was being in the first World Series, the Orioles first in 1966. As a youngster growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, all I dreamed about was being a professional baseball player. I wrote a booklet in the 8th grade called My Vocation, or what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I told them I wanted to be a professional baseball player. So I signed in 1955 and got to Baltimore, and I was here the rest of my life.
We got a question over here, gentleman in the Oriole jersey.
This question is for Brooks. Of all the home runs you've hit in your career, what was the most memorable for you?
I didn't hit too many. But, I hit a 2 or 3 run homer in Chicago off of Joe Harlan to right center field. And we were in the pennant race that year. I don't even know what. I think it was 64 maybe. And that was the one I remember most of all. I do remember hitting a home run, my last one at Memorial Stadium. I think there was 55 or 56 fans in the stands. And I celebrated that.
This question's for Eddie. Welcome back to Baltimore, Eddie. I've heard that you just learned to switch hit a few years before you made it to the major leagues, and I just want to know who was instrumental in that, and how you became so good at that so quickly.
I think it was the last 2 weeks of the 75 season. We were hitting early batting practice, and Jim Schaefer happened to, the last round or two of batting practice, the guys got in the batting cage and started hitting on the other side. I said, well, what the heck? I got in there and I started hitting the ball, and I started hitting the ball over the fence. So Jim starts to have an early batting practice in the next city we stop in. And he says, I'm doing the same thing, but he's looking at me. So now there's a phone call put into Baltimore that we got a kid here, and I think he might be pretty good at switch hitting. And supposedly the way it was going on the other side, well, we're going to mess up our best right-handed hitter. And then he locked him up with, well, he can always go back to hitting right-handed. So one night we getting ready to play, and he calls me back. And I'm just so young and naive. It's the first inning, but I think he's going to pinch hit for me. He calls me back, and he says, hey. And I'm going, yes? And he goes, you ever thought about hitting left-handed? Oh, I can hit left-handed. He said, go ahead. I bent down, picked up a left-handed helmet, put it on, went up, First pitch I hit was a double. Been doing it ever since. But I went 10 for 31, the season ended. And in a way, I was kind of glad that there was no one in Florida at the instructional league that had any experience at it. I just kind of went about it my own way. I mean, we would play today, we wouldn't play tomorrow, because we were sharing a team with the Yankees. Oh, that team was good, but we would play. And it just gave me a lot of time, and for some reason I had I just let the field open up to me. And I think that was the biggest part for me. I hit the ball hard to left field, and all of a sudden I could start to see the field open up. And but that's the greatest move I ever made in my life, was switch hitting. And I owe that to Jim Schaefer.
Mr. Palmer, you had mentioned about the Hall of Fame. And I was very, very fortunate to go to Eddie's in 2003. That was a great experience. And Cal's in 2007. And I'm very excited this year. My good friend Harold's going in, and of course Messina's going in. And my question really pertains to Messina. How do you feel that he has not picked a cap to wear on his, on his plaque?
Well, I don't know. I think normally the Hall of Fame makes that decision, what hat you're going to wear. One more games here, maybe not as meaningful as playoff games, even though he did have some playoff games. I mean, he had a great career, won more games than I did. And I think they made a decision for him. I think it would have been pretty controversial because he could be wearing either hats. Or maybe he gets one of those. Don't they make those double hats where you could have New York and then an Oriole? But I think, again, there have been other players that have done that. And I think the Orioles certainly would like to have him wear an Oriole hat, but so would the Yankees. So I think they just kind of took a safer way out. And, I think if you ask Moose, he says, I don't care what kind of hat I wear. I'm going to have a chance in July 21st to be inducted, and that's what makes it so special.
One thing I'd like to say, I came here, there's a little parallel to what's happening now. I came here in 1955. The Orioles came from St. Louis. They were the old St. Louis Browns in 1953. They came to Baltimore in 54. They lost 100-plus games. 1955, they lost 100-plus games. And they had a lot of older players at that particular time. Well, the parallel I like to draw is the fact we have a lot of young guys now. And we got, 15 guys from all the trades they made. But the point I'm trying to make is about 3 years later, in 50, the Orioles started getting respectable in 56, 7, and in 59. And then finally in 60, we almost had a chance to win the pennant. And the reason is we had about 5 or 6 guys come up from the minor leagues. Ronnie Hansen came from AAA. He was the Rookie of the Year. Marv Breeding, Chuck Estrada, a couple other people. But that's one of the things. We have a lot of young talent here, and I don't think it's going to take us that long to be respectable.
Hey, my question is for Jim. Obviously the greatest Oriole pitcher of all time. What's up, buddy? 19-year career, 211 complete games. What did you guys do back then that they are not doing today? Listen, Jim, 211 complete games. They're not doing it today. What did you guys do?
The game has changed a little bit. You have set-up guys, great closers. Mariano Rivera just got the first unanimous vote. So the game has changed a little bit. I still think everybody in baseball, starting pitchers, could pitch, with a couple of exceptions who do great jobs. You can pitch more. Every spring, and they'll do it again. Doug Brocale came over as a new pitching coach. He's going to say, we want to try to get 6 innings is 18 outs. We want to get somewhere between 18 to 21 outs. That'll make our bullpen better. That'll make our bullpen be better in September, not overused. So that's the mission. Back then, we only had 10 guys in the bullpen or on the staff. Now they have 13. So the game has just changed. Somebody asked me about windups. I think some of our guys did some pretty good job of adjusting. But the reason I got in the Hall of Fame is because there's about 1,100 lifetime home runs here. The Orioles, if they score more runs, Cashner didn't pitch well, gave up over 5 runs a game. He got three runs a game. you're not going to win a whole lot of games in modern history. You know, Cobb started pitching well after the late sign. He got a little 3.3 runs. If you get these guys some runs, then they don't have an excuse. They can go out there, they can pitch, they can relax. So hopefully what'll happen in 2019. Boy, what an opportunity, just as I was when I was 19, for a lot of the young pitchers here, and hopefully they'll make adjustments. And I think what Brandon Hyde said, which I like, and I learned from Cal Ripken Sr., you try to come to the ballpark every day and get a little bit better. And not only individually, but as a team. So, the Orioles, I was talking to Dylan Bundy today. I said, if you try to lose 115 games, that's hard to do. So I think they'll be a better ball club this year. They're in a tough division, obviously, with the Yankees and the Red Sox, the world champs. But I think they, as Brooksy said, should be a much more competitive ball club. And, you can see what you have and give them an opportunity, and then you go from there. They're going to have a lot of really high draft choices, and let's hope they make some good decisions there.
Got some more questions over here to my left.
Boog, for you. First off, I love coming to the restaurant. It's great seeing your happy face there, and the food's good. I'll give you a plug. Second question is, what would be your take now on hitting into the shift?
Drop one down. If they're going to give it to you over there, why not? And I wasn't exactly slow, but I wasn't exactly fast. I was sort of half fast. What? I don't. They did put the shift on me a couple of times later on in my career, and I could hit the ball to left field. I could hit the ball through there.
Every time I go to Fenway Park and do games, I still remember the night he hit 3 home runs to left field. One down the line, one to dead left center, and then almost to the...
The first two were off of Jim Lombard. The last one was off of John Wyatt. You remember John Green Goose Wyatt? That's right. I hit a spitter.
Football. Yeah.
Hit a spitter right down the line. Won the game. So...
Yeah, Boog could hit the ball to left field.
I hit the ball to left pretty good, and they didn't want to do that too much to me, but... that's a hard thing to do. When you're up there, what I think I might do really is get back in the batter's box as far as I could. I mean, I would get all the way in the back corner of it, and try to make everything away from me. Even the inside pitches would be away, and then you'd do that. And if they pitch you inside, it's a ball. So, why not? What do I know?
This question's for Brooks Robinson. Brooks, during your career, what pitcher did you fear the most?
What pitcher did I fear the most? The gentleman who liked to see me come to bat was a pitcher by the name of Earl Wilson, who pitched for Boston and Detroit. I just never hit that pitcher well. I don't know, I played in South America in 1955 in Barranquilla, Colombia. The Orioles took about 12 guys down there to play together, and he put one right here. I had the hat on, thank God. It hit me right there, bounced over the stadium there. But I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. But, I hit the ball, but I just couldn't get base hits. Earl Wilson.
We have one more question for our legends.
Brooksy, do you remember the night in Detroit? When me and you and Frank hit back to back off of Earl Wilson?
Yep. Did I? Is that Earl pitcher?
That was it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I hit a home run off of him then.
Yeah. He wasn't scared.
And I said, "Take that, Earl."
That's right.
One more question.
This question's for Eddie. Eddie, you're part of one of the most famous things that happened in Baltimore when Tippy picked the 3 runners over. Collins, Mosby, and Upshaw. What did you say to those guys before they got picked off? In '83.
I didn't have to say much, really. They were just really were so eager to run. And that's, sometimes you never notice the first base coach coming up. They couldn't wait to run. and all I would do, a couple of times I got off first base in a hurry, and I always told Tippy and our left-handed pitchers, don't listen to me. And sometimes what I would do is, hey, we got a good base runner over here. Don't forget about him. Now I'm saying, give me one. And I point to home plate. I said, hey, did you hear me? Says, give me one. You know, this guy can run. And you would do it again. Now, the third time, you would swear we're going to fight when we get in the dugout the way I'm yelling at him, but all he's doing is looking at me. And the reason why I did that, because the first base coach couldn't see which way I was pointing and stuff like that, and you would just do things like that with McGregor, Flanagan, and Tippy. You know, and it was just sometimes, most of the time it would work because they would see me come off because I'm yelling at him. Next thing you know, they were all coming off the bag, and we got lucky.
Who was the catcher that night?
Lenny Sakata.
Lenny Sakata was the catcher, and he's not a catcher, but he was catching that night, and they were thinking about stealing off of him, but he did a good job.
Yeah, Tippy, he had to have a sign with Tippy because Tippy might pick him off, too. And that's embarrassing. I know that for sure.
Tippy wasn't that good. Now, Flanagan, I might have took one right there.
That's right.
Folks, give a hand to our Oriole legends, Jim Palmer, Boog Powell, Eddie Murray, and Brooks Robinson.